Chapter 1. On the anniversary of 5 years of marriage between Lucas Taylor and me, I had specially prepared a romantic dinner to celebrate this important day. But Lucas Taylor didn't show up. He left me alone on this significant day to accompany his ex-girlfriend to try on wedding dresses. Someone asked him, "Is it because you couldn't marry your first love that you decided to marry her younger sister instead?" Lucas Taylor calmly replied, "Well, after all, who in this world wouldn't want their dreams to come true?" People gossiped, asking Lucas Taylor, "What if your wife finds out about this? What will you do then?" Lucas Taylor chuckled indifferently and said, "She loves me more than she loves herself. No matter what I do, as long as I put in a little effort to coax her, she'll forgive me right away." I had no intention of barging in to argue. Instead, I quietly hid the pregnancy report and handed him the divorce agreement I had prepared long ago. "Lucas Taylor, it's been 5 years. If it's just a dream, then it's time to wake up." On the anniversary of 5 years of marriage between Lucas Taylor and me, I held the pregnancy report and walked into the bridal shop to find him. Immediately, I saw Lucas Taylor sitting with a few friends. One of his close friends asked, "On your wedding anniversary, sneaking off with your ex to try on wedding dresses, Lucas Taylor, you're really bold." Leaning back on the sofa, Lucas Taylor replied in a deep voice, "The task that takes priority should be done first." Half an hour ago, he used this same warm, deep voice to tell me over the phone, "My company has an urgent matter, so I need to work overtime. Let's cancel dinner, and I'll make it up to you later. Love you, my dear wife." Someone chimed in, "A dream lover and a life partner, how can they even be compared?" Everyone knows that years ago, Lucas Taylor married Sophia Smith only because she and Diana are cousins, and they look about 50% alike. Another person added, "So, you couldn't marry the older sister, so you settled for the younger one as a replacement?" Everyone seemed to be waiting for Lucas Taylor's response. My hands trembled as I gripped the documents tightly. Lucas Taylor finally spoke, his tone calm. "After all, who in this world wouldn't want their dreams to come true?" I still remember when Lucas Taylor proposed to me. He said, "In this world, there's only one Sophia whom I love. I love you, Sophia, and only you." After 5 years of marriage, Lucas Taylor truly seemed like a husband who deeply loved his wife. Everyone envied me for marrying such a good man. But now, every word Lucas Taylor uttered was denying the love we had built over these 5 years. Silently, I slipped the pregnancy report into my bag and pulled out another set of documents, already signed. The white curtain slowly parted, revealing Diana Clark. She was meticulously made up, her figure alluring in a mermaid gown. She smiled at Lucas Taylor. "Lucas, do I look beautiful?" Lucas Taylor immediately stood up, walked toward her, and looked down at her. "Diana, when you wear a wedding dress, no one could ever be more beautiful than you." The two gazed at each other, their eyes filled with nothing but each other. The staff around them whispered, "This couple is such a perfect match." "Lucas, your wife is here." Lucas Taylor's close friend turned around, spotted me, and was startled. In an awkward tone, he reminded Lucas Taylor. Lucas Taylor turned his head and froze when he saw me. Diana Clark spoke first. "Sophia, don't misunderstand. I just returned to the country and started working as a model." Lucas Taylor only came with me because he was worried. The staff quickly added, Yes, Miss Clark is the model we invited. She came today for a trial." I looked at Lucas Taylor. "Accompanying Diana Clark for her trial is more important than our anniversary, isn't it?" Lucas Taylor frowned and said, "Sophia, stop overthinking. Diana is your cousin. You know she just returned to the country and has no friends in this city. If I don't help her, who will?" "Lucas Taylor, I heard everything you just said. Stop trying to hide it." A friend awkwardly tried to mediate. "Sophia, you heard it all? Lucas Taylor was just joking with us. He didn't mean it that way." Diana Clark smirked and said, "Sophia, let me be honest. If there was something between Lucas Taylor and me, do you think you'd even have a chance? Even if Lucas Taylor initially saw you as my replacement, you two are married now. Stop acting like I'm interfering in your marriage." I, Diana Clark, would never stoop so low. Lucas Taylor also looked at me, his eyes cold, his voice hoarse as he said, "Sophia, be good. Stop making a scene." Chapter 2. All eyes were on me. I slowly, step by step, walked up to Lucas Taylor. A girl trying on a wedding dress glared at me and sneered, "Falling in love has made her lose her mind. How can she be so pathetic? Clearly, she's just a substitute." Yet a few sweet words are enough for her to let everything slide. Lucas Taylor also smiled and extended his hand toward me. But immediately after, his smile froze on his face. I handed the divorce agreement directly to Lucas Taylor. He stared at it for a long time. So long that I wondered if the lighting in the room was too dim for him to see it clearly, so I spoke up, "Lucas Taylor, I want a divorce." Lucas Taylor opened his mouth, but couldn't say a word. He looked confused. I patiently continued, "I just wanted to let you know. You can stay here with her, we'll discuss this further when we get home. If you have any disagreements with the terms, we can renegotiate." "You want to divorce me?" Lucas Taylor asked again. Before I could respond, he spoke again, "Just because of this small matter, you want a divorce? Diana and I are in the past. Do you still want to cling to it and not let go?" "The past?" I gave a bitter smile, not answering, and shifted my gaze to the wedding dress Diana Clark was wearing. It was beautiful, but it looked cheap, nothing compared to the diamond-studded wedding dress Lucas Taylor had ordered for me when we got married. I asked Lucas Taylor, "Do you remember our wedding dress?" "I couldn't find it." "Do you remember where you put it?" Lucas Taylor's expression immediately changed. The wedding photos of Lucas Taylor and me had once gone viral on social media. At that time, his company was just starting up. I gave up a high-paying job to handle all the secretarial, administrative, and financial tasks for his company, just to save costs for him. During the busiest times, I worked myself to exhaustion, to the point of getting sick with a fever and aching joints, yet I still pushed through to travel for business and secure big contracts for him. I was well aware of the company's financial situation, so when I discovered he had spent tens of millions to order the wedding dress, I was heartbroken and asked him to return it. Lucas Taylor smiled and comforted me, "I just want you to be the most beautiful bride in the world. It doesn't matter how much it costs." On the day of the wedding photo shoot, the dress didn't fit, the waist was a bit tight. I pretended to complain, "It's all your fault, always cooking delicious food for me and making me gain weight." At that moment, Lucas Taylor stroked my head and, in a husky voice, said, "My wife, I've finally married you." I never thought that the dress was originally ordered for Diana Clark. Something that doesn't belong to me could never fit perfectly. Diana Clark and I had an ordinary relationship, not even exchanging contact information. It was only after being with Lucas Taylor that I learned his first love was my cousin. They had been in love for 4 years during college, but when she had to go abroad after graduation, they suddenly broke up. Lucas Taylor loved her deeply and was devastated for a long time after the breakup. When I found out, I reacted strongly, questioning Lucas Taylor, "Do you see me as a replacement?" But Lucas Taylor firmly replied, "No, Sophia is Sophia. You could never be a replacement for anyone. I love you simply because you are Sophia Smith." At that time, his eyes seemed to hold stars, containing only me. How could I possibly fight against that? So, when we took our wedding photos, I had no doubts. After we got married, I still had no doubts. Until half a year ago, Lucas Taylor suddenly started traveling abroad, frequently for work. One night, I couldn't resist and checked his phone. He had pinned his conversation with Diana Clark to the top. Immediately, a photo appeared before my eyes, sending chills down my spine. With trembling hands, I scrolled up to read. Their conversation had started half a year ago with the message, "It's been a long time. How have you been?" From there, they began chatting non-stop, growing increasingly ambiguous. The latest message was sent on my birthday. I still remember that day. Lucas Taylor said he had an unfinished meeting but managed to catch a late-night flight home. I was worried about him, but Lucas Taylor kissed my forehead and said, "It's my wife's birthday, I must come back to celebrate with you." At that moment, I thought I was the happiest woman in the world. But the timestamp on that photo coincided with the time Lucas Taylor was blowing out candles and making a wish with me. In the photo, Diana Clark was wearing a custom-made wedding dress, leaning into Lucas Taylor's arms as they took a selfie. There was even a faint red mark on her neck. She said, "Do I look better in this dress, or does your wife?" So, while I closed my eyes and wished for eternal happiness with Lucas Taylor, he was telling another woman, "There's a difference between a priceless treasure and a counterfeit." 5 years ago, Lucas Taylor proposed to me and said I wasn't a replacement for anyone. 5 years later, in front of the woman he couldn't forget, he said I was nothing but a counterfeit. It felt like my heart was pierced by 1,000 arrows. That's exactly how it felt. That night, I sat in the study, staring at the printed divorce papers all night. As the first light of dawn broke, I signed my name. Chapter 3 Memories flooded back. At this moment, in the bridal shop, Lucas Taylor looked a little flustered. He hurriedly wiped the tears from my face. I didn't want this, but at this moment, the tears were uncontrollable, streaming down. "Lucas Taylor, why did you lie to me about going on a business trip, only to go with Diana Clark, and then return home nonchalantly bringing me gifts? Does seeing Diana Clark in that wedding dress excite you more? After being with her, you still had to rush back to celebrate my birthday. Lucas Taylor, aren't you tired?" I was the one questioning, but I was also the one crying. My heart felt like it was torn apart, the wind blowing through it stung painfully. Lucas Taylor was at a loss for words, repeating hoarsely, "Sophia, I won't sign." "It's not what you think. Please calm down." "So, do you want your dream girl to continue being the third party?" I laughed bitterly. "You clearly can't forget her, yet you don't want to divorce me." "Lucas Taylor, a person can't have everything." Lucas Taylor looked at me like a child who couldn't understand, his expression disapproving. "She's your cousin. You can't embarrass her in front of everyone like this." Indeed, the staff and customers around had started whispering among themselves. Diana Clark no longer had the elegance and composure she had earlier. Her face gradually turned pale. He gripped my wrist tightly. "Don't let others laugh at us. Come home with me, and I'll explain everything to you slowly." "Let go." Atam, both my voice and Diana Clark's rang out simultaneously. I turned around and saw Diana Clark clutching her stomach, her face pale as paper, starting to break out in sweat. "Atam, I'm not feeling well. Can you take me to the hospital? Perhaps pain could be contagious." Seeing Diana Clark like that, my stomach also began to ache faintly. It was as if the tiny life inside me had sensed the decision I had just made in my heart, desperately trying to plead with me in its own way. I took a deep breath. "Lucas Taylor, if you really want to continue this marriage, then cut ties with her completely." Lucas Taylor seemed to be struggling internally. But in the end, he slowly let go of my hand. "Sophia, your cousin has been abroad for years, and her health hasn't been good. Now, because of your agitation, her stomach condition has flared up. I can't just leave her like this. Be good, don't make a scene, and go home first, all right?" He looked at me, but his mind was entirely on Diana Clark. Even though I already knew, between Diana Clark and me, he would never firmly choose me. At this moment, all hesitation, indecision, and doubt seemed to leave me. I heard my own voice clearly. "All right. Lucas Taylor, I just hope that when you realize what you've lost today, you won't regret it." Lucas Taylor paused his hand that was supporting Diana Clark and didn't turn around. "Sophia, I am not someone who can be easily threatened." I walked to the hospital alone. The surgical lights flickered on, then off. This child, from the moment it existed until the moment it left, its father never even knew of its existence. Lucas Taylor once eagerly looked forward to having a child with me, holding me and dreaming countless times about the happy life of a family of 3. I always thought that if I had a child, I would give them all my unconditional love. I would let them grow up in happiness. But I loved the wrong person. Lucas Taylor was not a good husband, so how could he possibly be a good father? When I returned to my parents' home with a pale face, my mother was startled. What happened to you? My father's face darkened. Why do you suddenly want a divorce? Did Lucas do something wrong to you? Let me go and teach him a lesson. My mother brought over a cup of hot tea. The warmth from the cup spread, warming my cold fingers. As soon as I opened my mouth, I couldn't hold back my sobs. I was about to pour out all the grievances in my heart when my mother spoke. Sophia, Lucas Taylor's company is about to go public. You've worked hard for years to achieve this success. Are you really willing to hand it all over to someone else? I was stunned. My mother continued, we know about what happened between him and Diana, but that's all in the past. Men are like that, what they can't have always seems desirable, no matter how worthless it is. Soon enough, he'll realize that the person he truly loves the most is you. I looked at the two of them for a long time before speaking. So, even though I'm in so much pain, so sad, you both still think I shouldn't get a divorce, right? Dad looked at me like I was a clueless child and sighed. Sophia, listen to me. No matter how much a man clings to his first love, over time, he'll realize the importance of family. Luke has such good qualities. Do you think if you divorce him, you'll find someone better? Don't act impulsively out of anger and make a foolish decision. Every word he spoke was about weighing pros and cons, but there was no sympathy for his daughter. Mom continued nagging, she doesn't know how to seize opportunities, doesn't know how to hold on to a potential stock. You barely managed to win against Diana once in marriage. It took so much for us to hold our heads high. Do you really want to lose to her now? From childhood to adulthood, I was always the one being compared to Diana Clark. My parents secretly competed with her family, yet outwardly, they always belittled me to curry favor with my aunt and uncle in Beijing. If only Sophia were even a fraction as good as Diana, we would thank the heavens. If Diana were our daughter, we wouldn't have needed to have Sophia. Sometimes, what people fear most isn't oppression, but oppression coming from their own beloved family. Over time, the inferiority complex grew like wild weeds in a corner, suffocating me. I clutched my stomach and quietly looked at them. To you, am I just a tool for comparison with Diana Clark? Dad glared at me, how can you speak to your parents like that? Aren't we doing this for your own good? I closed my eyes, suppressing the disappointment that had been building up for who knows how long. At first, I didn't hate Lucas Taylor this much. But the one involved was Diana Clark. He pretended to resolutely choose me, only to tear off that facade, leaving me in unbearable pain. That day, I truly thought Lucas Taylor was at a company meeting. It was Diana Clark who added me on WeChat and took the initiative to tell me she had returned to the country and that Lucas Taylor was with her. Before making a definitive decision, I didn't want my actions to arouse curiosity or gossip. So at that time, my profile picture was still our wedding photo, mine and Lucas Taylor's. Diana Clark liked the photo and then messaged, Sophia, you've always liked wearing my hand-me-downs since we were kids, but why would you pick up my discarded wedding dress to wear? When I received that message, I was staring at a pregnancy report, wondering whether I should wait for Lucas Taylor to come home from overtime to tell him. The presence of this tiny life made me hesitate. Should I give Lucas Taylor another chance for the sake of the child? Even though he betrayed me, at least outwardly, he still seemed like the perfect husband, loving me to the point of life and death. Chapter 4. I still remember one afternoon when Lucas Taylor and I were strolling around the apartment complex. Unexpectedly, a couple upstairs got into an argument, and a flower pot was pushed off the balcony. I was still dazed when Lucas Taylor instinctively pulled me into his arms without a second thought. As a result, his shoulder was struck by the falling pot, leaving it fractured. It took him several months to recover. The doctor said it was fortunate that it hit his shoulder, just a slight shift, and it could have struck his head. Lucas Taylor seemed even more shaken than I was. He hugged me tightly and said, Honey, thank goodness it wasn't you who got hurt. The girl in the hospital bed next to mine looked at me with admiration in her eyes. You're so lucky to have such a handsome and loving husband. Lucas Taylor stood beside me, beaming with pride, "That's right, no one loves Sophia Smith more than I do." He said it with such certainty. But at that time, he had already been sleeping with Diana Clark. I couldn't tell whether Lucas Taylor's love for me was genuine or fake. At least for now, I didn't want to figure it out anymore. I didn't want to argue with my parents anymore. I planned to tell them that I had been pregnant, then miscarried, and that Lucas Taylor and I could never be together again. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Lucas Taylor stood outside, holding a bouquet of vibrant red roses. "Honey, don't be mad anymore. Come home with me, will you?" Lucas Taylor lowered his gaze, looking at me intently. "Sophia, my friend saw you at the obstetrics department. Are you pregnant? Why didn't you tell me right away?" I shook my head, thought for a moment, and handed him the pregnancy test report. "At first, I planned to tell you, but then I felt it wasn't necessary anymore." Lucas Taylor's expression instantly stiffened, but shortly after, an uncontrollable smile appeared on his face as he stared at the pregnancy report. "Sophia, we're going to have a baby. I'm so happy." He looked up, perhaps noticing the coldness in my eyes, and paused for a moment. "I've already taken care of everything with Diana. Everything that happened before was my fault, but apart from her, I've never lied to you. Loving you is real, wanting to spend my life with you is real too. Sophia, this child is a gift from heaven for us, isn't it? I know you're angry, but for the sake of the baby, could you give me another chance?" Lucas Taylor explained at length. He said, "At first, they truly met by chance abroad. Diana Clark was alone with no one to take care of her, and gradually they reconnected. Over the years, Diana Clark's parents always held high expectations for her, demanding strict standards. In the eyes of outsiders, she was a perfect goddess, but after moving abroad, she developed depression. I didn't think accompanying her to the interview was more important than celebrating our anniversary. It's just that recently, her mental state has been very poor. She's always locking herself indoors. It took a lot of effort to convince her to try a new job, to get her life back on track. Sophia, you're a good person, you can understand me, right?" Lucas Taylor spoke with sincerity. "I admit I was wrong. When I first pursued you, I was genuinely looking for traces of Diana in you, even the wedding dress. That was my mistake, Sophia, I'm sorry. But after marrying you, I realized what a wonderful person you are, and I fell in love with you. I truly have no intentions towards Diana anymore." All those words I said on WeChat afterward were just to avoid triggering her emotions. Lucas Taylor said a lot, but I remained silent. Perhaps because I neither got angry nor argued with him, Lucas Taylor assumed I had been convinced, and his eyes lit up with joy. "Sophia, I won't see Diana anymore. Once the baby is born, we'll live happily together." I suddenly spoke. "Did you sleep with her also to avoid triggering her emotions?" Lucas Taylor choked up slightly, but still spoke slowly. "That night, she said that even after we broke up, she couldn't forget me. She wanted to wear a wedding dress, to fulfill her dream. I had no intention of anything happening with her, but at that time, I had a bit to drink, and I took back the pregnancy test report from his hand and, right in front of him, tore it into pieces. I said, "Lucas Taylor, I lied to you too. In fact, there's no baby anymore." Lucas Taylor's expression went blank for a moment. I grabbed his hand, placed it on my stomach, and said word by word, "I've already had an abortion. I don't want my child to have a father who cheats." "Lucas Taylor, your child, you're the one who killed it. Sophia, how could you decide to abort the baby on your own? How could you be so heartless? You've really made your parents furious." When they heard Lucas Taylor admit to cheating, they didn't blame him. But when they heard I had an abortion, my mother wiped away her tears and scolded me, as if I had done something terrible. Lucas Taylor stared at the scattered pieces of paper on the ground in silence for a long time. The veins on his forehead bulged, as if he was enduring immense pain. I thought he would be angry like my parents, that he would question me. But he just looked at me with bloodshot eyes, his voice hoarse like a rusty wheel, and forced out each word, "It's okay, Sophia. It's all my fault. As long as you forgive me, we can have another child. Chapter 5. I smiled. Do you even deserve it? Lucas Taylor. Lucas Taylor gritted his teeth. We've been married for so many years. Could you really not feel my love for you? Do you truly want to sentence me to death just because of one moment of weakness? Just a moment of weakness? Lucas Taylor, you had plenty of chances to stop, but you still let yourself continue chasing after an old dream, didn't you? Looking at the man before me, the one I had loved for so many years, seeing his pained and angry expression, I felt absolutely nothing. Lucas Taylor, you're just used to loving me while simultaneously deceiving and betraying me. Now that you admit it, explain, and express regret, it's only because you got caught. I spoke softly. Such a terrible love, no matter how much of it you give me, I don't need it. I looked at him without any emotion. This is a critical stage for your company to go public, isn't it? If a scandal breaks out now, what do you think your competitors will do to you? Do you think the shareholders will devour you alive? 3 days later, Lucas Taylor finally weighed the pros and cons. When he signed the divorce papers, he said, I told you, Sophia, I'm not someone who's easily threatened. He looked somewhat haggard, smiling bitterly. I'm agreeing to sign, not because I'm afraid you'll harm the company, but because I never expected, Sophia, that you would hate me this much. His hand paused as he signed, the pen halting, much like our marriage. Sophia, I'd rather you loudly argue with me, cry and question me like you did that day, than be this cold. Using what I care about most to force me into agreeing to divorce. You don't love me anymore, do you? I said, this outcome is something you should have mentally prepared for when you chose to cheat and get involved with Diana Clark. The corners of his eyes gradually reddened. I thought I still had a chance. I didn't expect you to be so resolute. I gave you a chance, I interrupted him. Lucas Taylor, after discovering your affair, I spent at least 3 months deliberating before making this decision. Especially when I found out I was pregnant, I gave you an opportunity, on the very day of our wedding anniversary. Before I uncovered the truth about him and Diana Clark myself, I had sent Lucas Taylor a message. I said, Lucas Taylor, are you hiding something from me? If you confess, I will forgive you. That was the last chance I gave to Lucas Taylor, for the sake of our child. But he responded casually, even joking with me, that's right, I'm preparing a surprise for you, my love. I can't tell you just yet. It was my trust and love for Lucas Taylor that made him treat me like a fool. Lucas Taylor hurriedly said, no, Sophia, that day I really was preparing a surprise for you. I planned to resolve everything with Diana and come back to you. I don't need it anymore. I lowered my eyes. When I was young, my parents tried to please my aunt and uncle by saying Diana could be their daughter, and I wasn't needed anymore. As I grew up, you also forgot all my joys and sorrows, because of Diana Clark. Just like how autumn always follows summer. In your eyes, I always seemed to be the second choice. Lucas Taylor tried to grab my hand, but I pulled away. I picked up the divorce papers and quickly walked out the door. I am not like the protagonists in many novels who leave empty-handed after cutting ties with a scumbag. I held on to Lucas Taylor's weaknesses and managed to take the majority of his assets. Because of this, Lucas Taylor's friends spoke ill of me. They used to call me their dear sister-in-law, but now when they mention me, it's only with 2 words, cruel and greedy. Lucas Taylor loved her so much, willing to sacrifice his life, only made a mistake that any man in the world could make, yet she divorced him. A woman that ruthless, who would dare marry her? But they forgot that it was me who endured countless days and nights, gave up my career, and built everything from scratch alongside Lucas Taylor. Taking my share of the assets is entirely reasonable. When my parents heard that I still decided to divorce Lucas Taylor, they were so furious they almost disowned me. But when they learned I got the majority of the assets, they were overjoyed. Let's see if that couple dares to hold their heads high now. Their daughter became the other woman and ended up with nothing in the end. How disgraceful. Only I remained calm. I am no longer the Sophia Smith of my teenage years. The 27-year-old Sophia Smith can now calmly accept that my parents don't love me as much as I once thought. Lucas Taylor was left drained by me. I heard he's been swamped at the company lately, barely getting a full night's sleep. Yet I've seen Lucas Taylor parked under my building several times. I didn't block his contact, so he still messages me. I made a pot of nourishing soup. You just lost a child and need to replenish your health. I know you don't want to see me, but promise me, don't neglect your health, okay? I replied, what you should be doing now is figuring out how to silence the shareholders and ensure the company goes public smoothly, not wasting 4 or 5 hours making soup no one will drink. Although I didn't publicly release concrete evidence, rumors have spread everywhere. Lucas Taylor immediately clung to hope. Sophia, are you worried about me? I looked at those words and sneered, did you forget I also got shares? Of course, I care about the company's future. Lately, Lucas Taylor has been bothering me less. But Diana Clark has taken the initiative to ask me to meet. Diana Clark still carried an inexplicable confidence. Stolen happiness will never last long. No wonder they like to compare me to you, even thinking you're inferior to me. I wouldn't be as greedy as you, demanding a large share of the assets after the divorce. I smiled. You're not greedy, you're kind-hearted. Your kindness is evident in your role as the third party, isn't it? Diana Clark sneered. Sophia, relationships should follow an order. You were merely a replacement for me. I'm just reclaiming what was originally mine. If you enjoy picking up trash, I won't stop you. Diana Clark finally got angry. I'm not here to argue with you today. The shares. Before she could finish, the sound of a slap echoed. Diana Clark held her face, now marked with 5 fingers, and stared at me in shock. Then I guess you came here to get slapped, I said, smiling at her. Did you think I was only prepared to deal with Lucas Taylor? Did you think everything would end here after the divorce? Diana Clark had always sought her superiority by comparing herself to me, but I was no longer the insecure, introverted girl of the past. The years I spent alongside Lucas Taylor building his career were filled with battles in the ruthless business world, marked by blood and tears. I once loved Lucas Taylor, which is why I gave him the chance to betray and hurt me. But now, I no longer love him. I never hated Diana Clark, only avoided her because I believed it was the adults who constantly compared us that truly hurt me, not her. Chapter 6. But now, everything has changed. Lucas Taylor made mistakes, and Diana Clark wasn't innocent either. The bad outcome she faced was caused by her own actions, and in the end, she had to endure it on her own. Diana Clark worked both as a commercial model and a freelance media professional within the country. Lucas Taylor invested a significant amount of money in purchasing promotional articles, exchanging resources, and employing various methods to pave her way. She proclaimed herself as a beautiful graduate student studying abroad, gradually becoming an online sensation. She even uploaded videos sharing her journey of self-recovery after battling depression, earning widespread sympathy and admiration. That was until the video at the bridal shop was posted online. The person who uploaded it was the girl who glared at me and called me brainless that day. She wrote, I can't stand how some people do dirty things behind others' backs and then pretend to be pure and innocent. Diana Clark's fans were shocked. The girl continued commenting, stop using depression as an excuse to exploit people's sympathy. Most depression patients would rather harm themselves than actively hurt others. You're just a homewrecker, so stop taking advantage of depression. This statement blocked Diana Clark's escape route when she tried to use her depression as a way to clean her image. I transferred a sum of money into the girl's account. Thanked her for recording the video and being willing to post it. If Lucas Taylor can buy promotional articles to elevate her, I can use the same method to drag her down to the bottom. Anyway, I have a lot of money now. I sold my shares to a stakeholder opposing Lucas Taylor. Moreover, at such a crucial time for going public, this matter is bound to affect Lucas Taylor. Now, Lucas Taylor can hardly even take care of himself. I also released evidence showing that Diana Clark bribed a psychologist to fake having depression. At this point, not only curious onlookers and fans, but also real depression patients were outraged. Depression patients are already misunderstood by many, and now someone like you turns our illness into a tool to make money, doing all this just to gain fame. When this incident caused an uproar, Diana Clark fell from grace. Brands that had collaborated with her all proposed terminating contracts, and her fans turned against her, criticizing her harshly. Lucas Taylor's company also issued an official statement, completely severing ties with Diana Clark. A mutual friend of Lucas Taylor and me shared that Diana Clark cried miserably that day, begging Lucas Taylor for help and even lamenting that she was being cyberbullied to the point of wanting to commit suicide. What do you think Lucas Taylor would say upon hearing that? She looked curious, not giving me a chance to answer before blurting out. Lucas Taylor said, "Then just go die." Haha, serves her right. I smiled faintly, saying nothing more. Placing your life and future in someone else's hands, instead of walking a righteous path on your own, she truly deserved the outcome she got. The stakeholder who received my shares gained significant power. Within the company, a trend of isolating Lucas Taylor began to emerge. I didn't care anymore. Using the money from the divorce and selling my shares, I moved to another city to start a business. Starting a business was tough and exhausting. Fortunately, I had experienced it once before. It wasn't my first time crossing a river by stepping on stones. By the end of the year, I returned to City A. Kneeling for a long time on the mat, I closed my eyes and clasped my hands in sincere prayer. Praying for the child I had the fate to meet but not the destiny to keep, hoping they may be reborn into a happy family. On my way down the mountain, I descended each step slowly, unexpectedly locking eyes with someone who had been watching me for a while. It was Lucas Taylor. It had been a long time since we last met, and I found him somewhat unfamiliar. Seeing that I recognized him, Lucas Taylor smiled, his voice slightly hoarse. "I also came here to pray for our child, Sophia. Can we talk for a moment?" I sipped my tea while gazing at the scenery outside the window. Lucas Taylor sighed, "Regardless of everything, thank you for not revealing the evidence you had." Still, the company wasn't able to go public successfully. I wasn't surprised because I had been closely following the business battles in City A. The day after Lucas Taylor submitted his application to the National Securities Commission, his extramarital affair scandal came to light. Diana Clark even released provocative photos far more scandalous than anything I had ever seen on Lucas Taylor's phone. The IPO process was delayed, funds ran short, and investors lost confidence. Lucas Taylor's competitors, like sharks smelling blood, sought to take advantage of the situation to push him out of the game. In short, Lucas Taylor was no longer the confident, carefree man he once was. Lucas Taylor also gazed into the distance, his eyes unfocused. Back then, after breaking up with Diana Clark, I thought no love in this world could last. But after marrying you, my perspective changed. Everyone said I loved you as if my life depended on it, envied you for marrying me. But only I know, you were the one I loved most. I thought you'd stay by my side forever. Lucas Taylor's eyes were filled with gloom, but it was me who pushed you away. I didn't say anything. Everything was over, love and hatred no longer mattered. Now, I only wanted to live my life well. But Lucas Taylor didn't give up. In his eyes, a glimmer of pleading appeared. At first, I couldn't let go of Diana Clark, but if she hadn't betrayed me, I wouldn't have been so heartbroken because of her, to the point of exhausting myself and even hurting you. Sophia, you've already taken your revenge on me. Can you forgive me one last time? All right. Lucas Taylor's eyes lit up, but I continued, as long as you can turn back time, go back to before I knew you, when you hadn't pursued me because I resembled Diana Clark, and hadn't lied, claiming I was the only one. Go back to when you married me, but let me wear a wedding dress that wasn't meant for me. Go back to when you pretended to be deeply loyal, yet remained ambiguous with another woman. With every word I spoke, Lucas Taylor's face grew paler. Finally, he shook his head with a bitter smile. Sophia, you know very well that time cannot be reversed. So, you still can't forgive me? I looked at him and said, word by word, if I could forgive you, how could I face the version of myself who was deceived and hurt by you again and again? Because no one had ever put Sophia Smith's feelings first. So much so that she almost forgot she deserved to be loved unconditionally. Forgiving the one who hurt me would be betraying the version of myself from the past. As I walked away, Lucas Taylor remained seated. But I didn't look back. A gentle breeze blew by, and a golden leaf spun as it fell onto my shoulder. Summer was ending. The distinct beauty of autumn awaited us ahead.